excited to bring another installment of our 40 stories. This has been a full year of us telling all the stories of our members who are doing some fantastic work out there. And everyone knows T-Mobile. We see the commercials, we see the pink t-shirts out there. We all know what's going on. The fact that they provide, all types of great service for your smartphone, cell phone, all that kind of fun stuff. What you probably don't know about T-Mobile is how much this company gives back to the community. They do some fantastic work. And to anchor our 40 stories today, we have Jim Spillane with T-Mobile. In fact, he is he's our regional director of public sector sales for the central region. So Jim, thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm glad we're able to do this because I know you're in a different area, so we're using Zoom. Normally we're in the studio, but my storytelling knows no bounds, man. So I'm glad you came in on Zoom in order to tell the story what T-Mobile's doing out there in the community.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Most definitely. So first and foremost, just give us a quick pitch about yourself. And of course, we all know kind of what T-Mobile does, but just in case someone's been under a rock and they don't know what T-Mobile is, let us know.
Yeah. So my background is that this is year 34 for me.
Wow.
I've been in this business for a really long time. Yeah. So I lead the central region for our organization. My teams are focused on all of the government agencies. We define that as all like local, county, state, K-12 charter schools, and then higher education. So my teams, we get to spend every day working with those agencies across my 16 states, but obviously very close to within Pittsburgh and across the state of Pennsylvania. So love what we do every day.
The passion is there. I can see, especially if you've been doing this for 34 years, something tells me you like what you do.
I love what I do. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I can see why too, because the fact that you're in the community doing great work. You're working with veterans, you're ensuring that there's broadband for everybody to have access to. Where do we start as to how T-Mobile interacts with the community and gives back? We're talking a lot of money and resources here. I think like billions of dollars, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So there's several things that we do. There's two major iconic initiatives that T-Mobile has. One is our Project 10 Million, and that's where we are connecting up to 10 million students with, in many cases, free lines of service, free access of internet service. I think about it just real quick to put that in context. I was part of a program back in 2016 under the Obama administration called Connect Ed, and Connect Ed was the first effort to try to bridge what was called the homework gap. And at the time, Sprint said, we're going to give up the 50,000 lines of service, 3 gig of data. You got to buy the device. And at the time we thought, oh my God, that is absolutely fantastic. Well, my 5-year-old granddaughter will consume 3 gig of data in no time at all. So
exactly.
Fast forward, here we are today. Today, we've connected over 5 million students. And these are kids that did not have access to internet service. We have over 5,000 just in the Pittsburgh public school district. And we have examples of kids that just didn't have access that go into, a relative's house or to a public venue, or kids getting up early, getting to school at 6 o'clock in the morning before the doors open to sit outside so they could get access to their school's internet to get their homework done. And it's what's been so great in this position is I get to go out and visit so many of these schools, and I've seen firsthand the experience, the expression of gratitude from kids that come up and say, thank you for this. Because of this, I'm able to do my homework. I'm able to get the grades I need. I can get the scholarship I need, the opportunity to continue my education. So that's been really gratifying and probably the most enjoyable part of me in this role, leading this team.
I can only imagine just knowing that what you're doing is going to help some kids succeed, get to that next level, find that opportunity that maybe they could not find without having access to the internet. Like I said, we take it so for granted sometimes, and we don't, because we want to realize some people don't have that access. You guys are providing it. Pretty cool, man. I like
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
Very
it really
cool.
is. It's very rewarding. Yeah.
So, you definitely like going into small communities and trying to make a difference, because a lot of times small communities, they have very tight budgets. And they have to choose between what kind of connectivity they can give, like their first responders, like the people on the front lines. And you try to eliminate that choice for them by giving them free access. Tell me more about how T-Mobile works with small communities and first responders and stuff like that.
Yeah, so great question, and a lot of it goes back to it's the network. So when you rewind back 3.5 years ago, when the two companies came together, the reason why Sprint and T-Mobile merging made so much sense is because T-Mobile had a tremendous amount of spectrum, and in our business, wireless spectrum, that's king. They had very low band spectrum and mid band and high band spectrum, which gave you a lot of the ability to penetrate buildings and get that kind of access. Sprint had a tremendous amount of mid-band or 2.5 spectrum, which now is perfect for 5G. It provides all kinds of long-range coverage. So by combining those two companies and our spectrums together, it allowed us to do all that. So we can penetrate buildings, we can cover large geographic areas, we can provide speed, and we can provide the access and the bandwidth to support that. So when you think about what that's done for small communities, that's really allowed that small rural town to have access to technology that they ordinarily haven't. And one of the areas, Jonathan, we're seeing really big traction is in the agricultural side of our business.
Oh,
So
interesting. Very cool. Yeah, tell me about that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So think about like the farming communities of all these, so many of these small communities really rely heavily on that agricultural, that farming. And you think about how important the role technology plays. So if you're a small farmer, small community, and you're competing in a marketplace where technology is so prevalent, how do you compete in that? So you got to have access to the network. So the ability to be able to extend the 5G network out to these smaller agricultural communities has been so key. We're working, and I can't say who yet, but we're working with a very prominent university around the ability, what we're calling connected soil. So think about, you've got data, you've got sensors in the soil that can help you detect how much fertilizer do I need? How much do I have weeds I need to eliminate? What's the watering that I need? So the ability to use technology to maximize the resources it takes for a farmer to compete is so important. So that kind of extending that kind of technology out into these rural areas is so exciting for us. So that's just one other example.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'll tell you what, man, farmers are obviously I love to eat. I don't take for granted that someone's growing my food somewhere. And the idea that we can keep something like American farmers like as competitive as possible and make sure we can grow as much food as possible to feed people.
Absolutely.
Come on, man. Jeez, that's so cool.
Well, and they have to do it cost effectively too, right? Think about
exactly.
if you're in that, I mean, the cost for, everything that's petroleum based, whether it's run your equipment, your fertilizer, all that's expense, right? So how do you make sure you're getting the absolute most out of that? Technology, being able to leverage technology to do that. So that's an area that we're really exploring on, and we're working very closely with a lot of the colleges and universities that what they call these land grant colleges that have these extension offices. And it also applies to healthcare too. So think about access to healthcare in small communities. That has always been a challenge. So how do we extend the ability? So telehealth on a device, being able to have access to latest healthcare when you're in a remote rural area is a challenge. So that's another area that we're working very closely. And a lot of time we're working alongside the colleges and universities that support these communities. So that's been just really exciting for us to do that as well.
That's why I'm so glad I'm talking to you today for our 40 stories, because this is a story that I think a lot of people just don't know about T-Mobile, is the fact that you're doing things like working with farmers with testers that go into the soil in order to give them a readout. The fact that you're bringing broadband out there. I don't know, these are all things that I think are exciting. And this is all based on the fact that 5G is making so much of this happen. And obviously T-Mobile with 5G, it's like you guys are just so synonymous. Like you were the first to really roll out with that and everything. And tell us more about how 5G is just creating this next level, this next revolution of technology. Because we look at what's been done with 4G, it's been some pretty amazing stuff. And 5G just makes 4G look slow. I think it's the only word I can use.
Well, again, I keep going back to it's the network, right? And, it all starts, you have to have a network that's got coverage, that's got capacity, that's got speed. We're very fortunate. In fact, we just announced this week, we now connect, 300 million US citizens with our 5G ultra capacity network. So ultra capacity means getting the very best access to speed and bandwidth and availability. We connect 330 million total residents with our 5G network, not just with the ultra capacity. That's 98%. So we cover 98% of the US population with our network today. So that's where it all starts. So you've got to have that, right. You've got to have that blanketed coverage that gives you that the access to that speed and capacity. So, but to your point, back to your question around 5G, and we talked a little bit about, 4G was that unlocked all these technologies we have today that we take for granted. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Amazon shows up at my house, basically because of my wife. I won't lie there, but that is, but being able to sit and order things online, or, be able to get Uber Eats, or, get a Lyft or anything like that, was all 4G. 5G now will bring a whole nother level of access and technology that wasn't there before. And because it gives you exceeded broadband speeds, but it also gives you low latency. So latency is super important. It's the amount of time it takes for that packet of information to travel from A to B. When you have low latency, you can operate, even, we mentioned before, like remote surgical procedures. So a doctor at one end of a camera being able to conduct a surgical procedure on a patient in another location, because they've got such the speed and capacity, but the latency on the network allows them to do that.
My goodness.
And what's been so cool in working with, this is such a kind of a full circle analogy, but our ability to work so closely with the kids in K-12 schools and the kids in college and the colleges and universities, they're the ones right now that are going to unlock the next, the Ubers and the Amazons of the world from 5G. They're the ones that are using this technology today. They're going to unlock that. I don't think we haven't even scratched the surface on what that's going to look like.
And that's why it's so exciting. So, which leads to my question of, the future has to be very bright for you when you think about the future of technology. We've been asking all of our guests about the future because we want to be forward looking here at the Tech Council. Bright future, I'm assuming, for you guys, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what we love about working with the Pittsburgh Tech Council, because what you're doing out in the community, and this gives us this kind of access. It's fantastic. But yeah, you think about where we're going in the future. You think about with AI and what can unlock. And I know that's a debatable discussion sometimes, but how that technology can be used is still super important. The data analytics, you think about just access to the data that you can collect on information, what you can do with that information, how you can leverage that. So, you think about autonomous vehicles and autonomous drone technology. That's all things that are being unlocked with 5G technology. T-Mobile, really what we do is we connect people, places, and things with our network. So it's limitless, the number of things that can be connected and measured utilizing the 5G network. It's super exciting time right now.
I tell you what, it gets me fired up because, we see all the craziness of the world, and you can get kind of depressed and be like, oh my God. But I realize there's some really smart people out there who have access to great technology, and they're using technology to make the world a better place, building things that make life better. I mean, just the idea that a doctor could one day, probably very soon, actually operate remotely, being able to access people that need care but can't get to the best doctors. That best doctor can do it through a 5G network. Like, that's like, oh, wow, so cool, so cool. So you got to tell me, you guys are members of the Pittsburgh Tech Council. Why do you guys choose to hang out with the Tech Council, for crying out loud?
Yeah, well, it's simple. I mean, you're the Pittsburgh Tech Council. I mean, you've got the pulse on technology, the community, the technology within the community. I mean, you got what you advocate for, all kinds of positive public policy, and we want to be a part of that. You help unlock exposure to innovation, all kinds of disruptive technologies that can help people. And I think you guys are in a perfect position to do that. Just like these kinds of discussions and sessions are so meaningful. So we love being a part of it. We want to continue to do so, because there's a lot I think we can share together.
Love it, man. Because we can't do it without our members, and I'm just so glad that you're able to use us to get into what you need to do, and vice versa. It's a great partnership, and so glad T-Mobile's been a member of the Tech Council forever, it seems like.
Absolutely.
So, Jim, can't thank you enough for talking to me today. You got me all fired up because I get excited about the potential that's out there, and the fact that T-Mobile has been able to bring some of this to life for us. Great stuff,
Absolutely.
Jim.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. Love that discussion.
Absolutely. Thanks for being part of our 40 Stories.